Until now. 3 months before the Season 2 premiere, a small group of internal viewers was shown early edits of episodes 6 and 7, the build-up to the Abby takeover. The feedback was collected, anonymized, and submitted to Warner Bros. Discovery's internal engagement team. And according to a now-deleted LinkedIn portfolio, archived by a former analytics contractor, viewer interest dropped 47% during scenes focused solely on Abby. Yes, sa subtil piosentu. That means nearly half of all viewers in the test group either zoned out, disengaged, or outright stopped watching when Abby's standalone narrative kicked in. This stat never made it into any press release, never saw daylight. It was deemed non-representative of final audience behavior. But think about that for a second. When a company ignores nearly half of its test audience, that's not confidence, that's desperation. They were hoping the story itself would change our minds, but it didn't. The final numbers proved it. Season 2 ended with a 55% drop in finale viewership. The exact thing they feared happened anyway. And now, we can see the bigger pattern. Episode 1 started strong, 5.3 million viewers, but every Abby-centered episode that followed, the numbers fell. By episode 7, the finale, we were at 3.7 million, the lowest finale in the franchise's short but explosive history. It's not just a blip, it's a collapse. And what's most haunting, HBO saw it coming, and they did nothing. After the finale aired, Neil Druckmann, normally active online, especially after big story moments, went quiet. No celebratory post, no behind-the-scenes breakdown, no fireside video like after Season 1. Craig Mazin gave a few vague quotes, but neither acknowledged the massive audience drop, neither spoke about the future. Why? Because they know exactly how unstable this moment is. One wrong move, and the entire 4-season plan shatters. And Season 3, it's already been filmed, the structure is locked in. Season 3 is about Abby. Her trauma, her guilt, her past, her redemption. We've seen this trope before. Villain becomes misunderstood hero. But this isn't a 2-minute monologue, it's an entire season. A season without Ellie. A season without closure for Joel. And for fans who still haven't forgiven Abby, it's asking too much. The truth is, the longer Ellie stays off screen, the more fragile this entire house of cards becomes. It wasn't just that Joel died, it was how he died. Brutally, without dignity, no final words, no redemption, just violence. And no matter how narratively justified that was, fans weren't ready to move on. They wanted space, healing, closure. What they got instead was Abby. And that emotional wound? It hasn't healed. In fact, for some, it's festering. There's a moment in The Last of Us Part 2 that almost no one talks about in public. It's not Joel's death, not the Seattle ambush, not even the theater standoff. It's something much harder to watch, something more brutal than any action scene, because it doesn't come from violence, it comes from betrayal. And if HBO adapts it exactly as it happened in the game, fans won't just walk away, they'll rage quit. Near the end of the game, Ellie makes a choice, a devastating one. After losing almost everything, Dina, the child, the farmhouse, her peace, she abandons it all to chase Abby one last time. Despite being warned, despite being told she's on the edge of losing her soul, she leaves anyway. And what follows is arguably one of the most divisive scenes in video game history. When Ellie returns to the farm after her failed revenge, Dina is gone. Their life together, erased. The room is empty, the baby's clothes are folded neatly. The guitar Joel gave her, she can't even play it anymore, because of the finger she lost in the final fight. She's physically and emotionally broken, alone, abandoned, empty. And here's the kicker, the story just ends. No comfort, no closure, no resolution, just silence and sorrow. In the game, this ending works because you lived it. You controlled Ellie. You made the decisions. You sat in the guilt. But in a TV show, you're just watching her self-destruct. There's no agency, no player choice, no inner dialogue. Just a season that ends with a woman, alone, broken, and no way to undo what's been done. It's brilliant, it's art, but it's also TV suicide. Audiences don't forgive this kind of emotional void easily, not without some glimmer of hope. And The Last of Us has been pulling hope away piece by piece. Season 1 ended with a lie. Season 2 ended with a gun to Ellie's face. Season 3 could end with her losing everything. Do you see the pattern yet? This isn't just bleak, it's relentless. And the audience is tired. They came for a story of connection, of growth, of healing in a broken world. But what they're getting now is a study in emotional destruction, and not ever. Perspective. Season 4, the final convergence. Ellie and Abby's final fate. But that means Season 3 is a giant narrative bridge, a risk with no resolution, a season that ends in setup. If that's true, then here's the forbidden knowledge no one wants to admit. Season 3 might not just lose viewers, it might destroy the finale's chances altogether. Let's not pretend this hasn't happened before. Remember Westworld? A bold sci-fi epic. Huge premiere, complex storytelling, and by Season 3, it was unwatchable for the mainstream. Or The Walking Dead introduced too many side characters, killed its leads, and fans stopped showing up. The Last of Us is now standing at the edge of the same cliff, one misstep, one unbalanced season, and it plummets. And the saddest part, all of this was preventable. Season 2's numbers are a warning flare. Season 3's structure is a ticking clock, and HBO is running out of time. There is a way to save it, but it means breaking the plan, adapting early, shifting the narrative weight. The question is, will they do it? Or will they double down and lose the core of their audience forever? Behind every franchise collapse is a moment the creators thought no one would notice. But here, the cracks are already showing, and they're showing on camera, in interviews, in subtle phrasing that nobody took seriously until now. Because something happened after Season 2 wrapped. Something subtle, a shift in language, a change in tone. And if you've been listening carefully, you'll realize HBO might already be preparing fans for the fallout. In an interview post-finale, Craig Mazin made an offhand comment that most people ignored. But here's what he said word for word. Season 3 is going to be different. It's going to challenge people's patience, their expectations, and their loyalty. Let that settle in. Challenge their loyalty. You don't say that unless you know what's coming is going to upset a lot of people. But Mazin didn't stop there. He followed up with something more revealing. We're asking viewers to trust us. We're doing something bold. Sound familiar? That's what Game of Thrones said before Season 8. They asked for trust. Then they gave us a finale that broke the internet and the fan base. Warner Brothers. Discovery released a press statement blaming Season 2's viewership drop on Memorial Day. That's their official story. But the unofficial truth? Behind closed doors, they know exactly what went wrong. The backlash to Abby, the absence of Ellie, the pacing, the bleakness, the emotional whiplash. This isn't just audience fatigue, it's emotional alienation. And HBO's executives are quietly preparing for sources close to the production. Insiders who've worked on both seasons have revealed that there's been debate inside HBO about the 4-season structure. One camp wants to push ahead, follow the vision, tell the story as it's meant to be told. The other camp, they want to consolidate, speed things up, wrap it in 3 seasons, avoid another ratings crash. Why does that matter? Because if they cut the final arc short, Ellie's character arc might never get proper closure. And if they don't, Season 3 becomes the biggest risk the network has taken in a decade. Either way, someone loses. Want to know another red flag? Look at the marketing. Season 2's trailer barely featured Abby, and after Joel's death, there was a noticeable pullback on official merchandise. Where were the Abby posters, the figures, the collector's editions? HBO knows she's a hard sell, so they've been soft-pedaling her presence. But when Season 3 arrives, they won't be able to hide her anymore. And if the audience isn't ready to follow her, then HBO walks into a storm they created themselves. Joel and Ellie, their bond, their broken, healing, violent, beautiful relationship. That's what made this show explode. And now, that DNA is being rewritten, ripped apart. Season 2 buried Joel, Season 3 is abandoning Ellie. And the new center, a woman the audience still sees as a villain. This isn't evolution, this is fragmentation. So here's the forbidden question, the one the showrunners refuse to say out loud. What if audiences just don't want to forgive Abby? What if the grand narrative experiment, the shift in perspective, is a beautiful idea that no one wants to see? Because no matter how compelling Abby's story might be, the TV format doesn't let you play her, it only lets you watch. And when your audience is already fractured, asking them to switch sides might not just fail, it might break the story completely. It was never meant to get out. But in every studio, someone talks, and what they shared about The Last of Us was chilling. Because before Season 2 even aired, HBO ran private tests, focus groups, unreleased viewership models. They wanted to know, will fans accept Abby? And the results? Quietly buried, never public. I'm worried about The Last of Us 4-season plan after the season. 2 finales drop in viewership? What if I told you? The Last of Us might not survive its own story. After all the hype, the awards, the tears, the blood, and Joel's final goodbye, the series is crumbling right before our eyes. No one saw this coming, but the warning signs were always there. You just weren't looking close enough. Season 2's finale just dropped, but not in the way HBO hoped. Not with a bang, but with a hollow echo that only 3.7 million people heard. That's right, a show that once pulled in 8.2 million same-day viewers is now barely drawing half of that. So what happened? Why is one of the most celebrated video game adaptations dying in silence? This isn't just a review bomb problem, this is something deeper, something buried in the heart of its story. And if what I've uncovered is true, then The Last of Us' entire 4-season plan may already be doomed. Before I reveal what the studio doesn't want you to know, hit that subscribe button, only once, because if you care about storytelling, this is the one time it really matters. The finale of Season 2 should have been monumental. Instead, it limped across the finish line with just 3.7 million viewers. That's a 55% drop from the Season 1 finale. Not 10%, not 30%, but over half the audience vanished. The studio blamed it on Memorial Day weekend. But come on, that excuse doesn't hold up when Season 1 broke records during a holiday week too. You can't just pin this on timing. There's a disconnect happening between what the showrunners want to tell and what the audience is willing to follow. Let's do the math. Episode 1 of Season 2 started strong, 5.3 million viewers. But by the finale, that number had dropped by 30%. This isn't just a slow leak, it's a hemorrhage. Season 2 took a bold risk. It adapted only the first half of The Last of Us Part 2, and within that half, a brutal moment that shattered the fan base. Joel, dead. Killed by a stranger named Abby, a woman whose story we barely knew, but whose actions cut deep. And Ellie, thrown into a revenge spiral that left fans emotionally torn. Critics applauded it, but audiences, they felt betrayed, and it shows in the ratings. Rotten Tomatoes, 38% audience score. Yes, there's review bombing, but that can't explain this level of drop-off. The show lost something bigger than just a character. It lost trust. Season 3, if it follows the game, will barely feature Ellie at all. Yes, the main character, the heart of the franchise, missing for nearly an entire season. Instead, we'll follow Abby, the very person who fans blame for Joel's death. That's like replacing Jon Snow with Ramsey Bolton and asking fans to just go with it. The showrunners say it's all part of a 4-season master plan, but when half your audience walks away before you even begin the big reveal, does the plan even matter anymore? And what if I told you, Season 3's structure might guarantee the lowest ratings yet? Here's the part that should terrify every fan, and even HBO executives. Season 3 is Abby's season. Not Ellie's, not Joel's, not even Tommy's. Abby, the character most viewers still blame for killing the emotional center of the story. Season 2 left us dangling with a shotgun blast. Jesse is dead. Tommy's held hostage. Ellie is seemingly shot. And Abby walks into frame like it's her show now. Guess what? It is. And if they stay loyal to the game, Ellie won't return until episode 6 or 7. Let that sink in. Fans waited 2 years between seasons. And now, they'll wait even longer to see their lead again. But it gets worse. The Last of Us Part 2 made a daring structural move in the game. First you play as Ellie, then you switch to Abby. It's a gut punch, a narrative experiment that forces empathy, forces you to see both sides. But what works in a 25-hour game can fall apart on TV. Why? Because players control the story in the game. On HBO, viewers are passive. They don't get a choice. They just have to watch Abby take over. And trust me, not everyone is ready to forgive her, not even close. So what happens when an entire season is dedicated to the villain, while your hero sits in the background? This is where HBO's gamble becomes dangerous. Because if Season 3 goes full Abby focus, the backlash might not just be emotional, it'll be mathematical. Viewership could drop again, maybe even below 3 million. At that point, HBO isn't running a prestige drama anymore, it's carrying a dying franchise. And here's the brutal truth, HBO has already renewed the show for Season 3. They've committed. But Season 4? That's not greenlit yet, and if the numbers keep dropping, it might never be. Neil Druckmann and Craig Mazin promised a 4-season arc. They believe The Last of Us Part 2 is so dense, it needs to be told in 3 parts. Season 2, Ellie's revenge journey. Season 3, Abby's. Yon wants to take that ride. If you've checked the forums, Reddit, Twitter, you'll see what fans are saying. They're going to kill Dina. Ellie's going to die in Season 4. Abby is going to become the new lead permanently. None of these theories are confirmed, but the fact that people believe them says everything. The fan base is already bracing for heartbreak, expecting betrayal, pre-writing their disappointment. That's not hype, that's anticipatory grief. And if that's the mindset going into Season 3, HBO is in trouble. So here's the big decision ahead, and it's not about ratings, not even the writing. It's about balance. Can HBO tell Abby's story without sacrificing Ellie's? Can they show the pain without abandoning the hope? Because if they get that wrong, even by one scene, the entire emotional foundation of the show collapses. And if that happens, Season 4 will never happen. Not just because of numbers, but because there won't be any trust left. You thought Joel's death was the turning point. You thought Abby was the gamble, but you haven't met her yet. She's the final thread, the last major character introduced in The Last of Us Part 2, and if Season 3 follows the game, she's on her way. Her name is Lev. Lev is a young boy who escapes a brutal religious cult alongside his sister, Yara. He finds unlikely protection in the one person the world hates, Abby. Through Lev, Abby changes, softens, rediscovers her own humanity, and in many ways, he becomes the Ellie to Abby's broken version of Joel. That's intentional, it's a mirror. But mirrors can crack, and this one, it's already under pressure. Lev is transgender, and while The Last of Us treated his story with grace and power in the game, the TV audience is a different battlefield. You saw the backlash in Season 1 when Ellie's relationship with Riley was shown. You saw the outrage after Bill and Frank's episode aired, even though it was widely praised. Now multiply that by 10, Because Lev's arc, it isn't a single episode, it's the emotional spine of Abby's redemption. And in 2025's climate, where social debates are louder than ever, this storyline is about to walk straight into fire. And HBO knows it. Notice something strange? No casting announcements, no teasers, no behind-the-scenes shots. Lev's character hasn't even been acknowledged by the official marketing team. Why? Because they're bracing. They know the moment his storyline appears in trailers, comment sections will light up. Think pieces, cancel culture, culture war debates, review bombs, again. And once that fire starts, it's almost impossible to put out. But the real risk isn't the outrage, it's something worse. Let's imagine season 3 unfolds just like the game. Ellie's gone for half the season, Abby is the lead, and suddenly, Lev is the emotional core. Now you've replaced Joel with Abby, and Ellie with Lev. Do you see the pattern yet? It's not about diversity or representation, it's about removal. Fans grow attached, deeply, obsessively. When you replace two leads, no matter how thoughtful the new characters are, it feels like erasure. And no show survives 2 replacements in 3 seasons. Look at The Walking Dead. Remember when they tried to make Carl the new Rick? Or Star Wars? When they sidelined Luke to make room for Rey? Fans didn't reject the characters, they rejected the loss of legacy. Lev is a powerful character. His story deserves to be told, but not at the expense of the very characters fans followed here in the first place. And unless season 3 finds a way to balance that narrative, the audience might not come back for season 4. Let's get something straight. This isn't about politics, it's about structure. TV audiences need stability. They want a central heartbeat, a rhythm, a consistent thread. But if Ellie disappears, Abby becomes the lead, Lev becomes the moral compass, and Joel's memory fades into silence. Then what even is The Last of Us anymore? Is it a story about revenge, forgiveness, or just a slow, beautiful destruction of everything the fans came to love?